Why does Thursday Night Football even exist? Hello, I'm your host, Matthew, and we are going to be doing some game predictions of basically the final week of the NFL. So, let's get into the first game, which is the Lions versus the Cowboys. They actually flexed the Monday night game into a Saturday night game. And now, if I'm going to be 100% honest, I'm going with the Cowboys because, they've been on a losing streak, yeah, for sure. The Lions just came off of a win, too, but I overall have Dallas over Detroit because of Dak Prescott. Obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks. I don't think Jared Goff matches up too well with that. And also, I feel like it's going to be a close game, but Dallas wins this one. Okay, next we have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Texans. And actually, CJ Stroud is questionable still to play in the game. And so we've seen these teams go at it before, and it was actually a pretty close game. But I do believe that Tennessee will be able to defeat the Texans because it was a pretty close game last time, and CJ Stroud is probably not playing. And next, we have the Atlanta Falcons versus the Chicago Bears. And if I'm going to be honest, the Bears' performance last week was meh. And the Falcons, well, they did actually pretty good. And so, I'm a Packers fan, so I hope the Bears can end up pulling it off and defeat the Falcons to have the Packers' playoffs hopes still alive. But if I'm going to be unbiased, I truly believe that the Chicago Bears will win this game. Now, in this game, we have two of the top dogs duking it out. We have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I think this should be a really close game, with both of these teams beating really good and professionalized teams. Miami beating the Cowboys and Baltimore beating the Niners. And if I have anyone to pick, it would be the Miami Dolphins. And yes, even though they only got a few field goals for the win last week, I think they just will perform better, and they have much more hope and faith than the Baltimore Ravens. And so, I have the Miami Dolphins winning this game. Next, we have the battle for the South. The Saints taking on the Buccaneers. And the Saints are looking okay. They're not looking the best, but they're facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which have been hot, and Baker Mayfield has recently had the best game of his career a few weeks ago at Lambeau Field. And I think the Saints have just been underperforming lately, and the Buccaneers have been way too good compared against the Saints. So I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this game. Alright, next we have the New England Patriots versus the Buffalo Bills. And now, yes, the Patriots, they've been hot lately. They've definitely gotten a few wins, and I know Patriots fans are happy right now because they're actually doing extremely good. But the Buffalo Bills have been also doing extremely well. If Miami loses the next 2 games that they play and the Bills win out, then the Buffalo Bills take the NFC East. But in this situation, I believe that the Buffalo Bills actually lose and the Patriots upset the Bills. And it's only going to be by a field goal. And so that's my predictions. Alright, now we have the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, the Battle of the Birds. And the Cardinals basically got blown out by the Bears. The Bears had a pretty good performance, while the Eagles had a bad performance, but they still won. I would say their performance was mid, but they still won. A win's a win. I cannot complain. I have the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game by a blowout. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win 27-3. And that's my prediction. The next game, the Carolina Panthers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm just going to get straight to the point. Bryce Young had a career best game against the Packers, which it's Joe Barry's offense. But I think this will be a blowout. The Jaguars win by 40 and the Panthers score nothing. And I have the Jaguars pulling out the W and winning. And next, we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Indianapolis Colts. And let me just say this. Tough loss for the Colts. You guys got blown out, and I feel bad for you. But let's get on to the Raiders. The Raiders have been hot recently, losing 0-3, embarrassing game, coming back from that game, scoring 63 points. And then after that week versus the Chargers, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. And it wasn't close. You could obviously tell the Raiders were a step ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs. And therefore, I have the Las Vegas Raiders winning this game versus the Indianapolis Colts. Next, we have the LA Rams versus the New York Giants. The Rams have been hot recently, and the Giants haven't been doing so well. Last week, the Rams won against the New Orleans Saints, and it wasn't a pretty game for the Saints. As for the Giants had a nasty game, almost winning against Philadelphia. But I have the Giants pulling out the W and upsetting the LA Rams and taking home the W, while the Rams sit there and cry as their playoff hopes sink away. Next game is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Washington Commanders. And me personally, the 49ers put a horrendous game up for everyone to see Christmas night, getting absolutely blown out and beat by the Ravens. And right now the 49ers are in a spot where they need to win out to get the number 1 seed, or they just play along and be the trash Niners that we saw on national television and have the Eagles take the number 1 seed. So the 49ers are needing the number 1 seed, and the Commanders are playing for nothing. It's a win-win situation for the Commanders, and I think the 49ers will play one of their best games of the season, putting up maybe 70, which is a little far-fetched, but they're mad, and I know they want that number 1 seed. So I have the 49ers winning this game. And in this next game, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Seattle Seahawks. The battle for who makes it into the playoffs. I think this will be one of the highest scoring games of the season and of the week. But I have the Steelers ultimately stealing away the Seahawks wins and potentially sealing off the playoff hopes for the Seahawks. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a heated rivalry, and I think the Chiefs will ultimately come away with the win. The Bengals and Chiefs having tough losses last week. Chiefs having one of the worst losses, though, as they had 2 defensive touchdowns by the Raiders, and I know they're going to be mad, and this is going to be their redemption game. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and they both had tough losses last week, with the Bengals getting blown out by the Steelers and the Chiefs having 2 defensive touchdowns scored on them by the Raiders, 1 pick six and 1 fumble recovery that was taken in for a touchdown. And both teams are fighting. For both teams, it's a rivalry. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs will pull it off and win to lock up their division. Next, we have the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Denver Broncos. Now, the Chargers' season is basically over. Now they're just playing to see if they can get some few more wins to make their record at least look okay. And the Denver Broncos fighting for their playoff lives. I have the Broncos winning out by a field goal because they have much more on the line than the Los Angeles Chargers. Next, we have the game to end off the year, a Sunday night game with the Green Bay mother-loving Packers versus the Minnesota Vikings, and both of these teams fighting for the playoffs. And right now, I have the Green Bay Packers winning out, beating the Vikings, and Jordan Love will have a masterclass. We'll have one of the best games of the season, and Joe Barry and the defense actually showing up to show who they really are. And I know Jair Alexander is obviously suspended, but that won't stop the Packers from winning out, beating the Minnesota Vikings, and asserting themselves as playoff contenders. And to get you caught up, these are the AFC and NFC picks of who's going to win. See you guys next time. Peace.